day, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gift Tunjibisi, and I'm the Secretary for H, Academic and Grant Writing Enclave. Just before we welcome our speaker this afternoon, I would just like to give us a brief introduction. So our facilitator for this webinar is in person of Dr. Wadzani Dauda, Panam. And Dr. Wadzani Dauda Panam is a researcher, an academic mentor, and a life coach. He is currently serving as a faculty member at the Federal University, Gashua, Nigeria. And his illustrious career is marked by over 100 scholarly publications, which reflects his unwavering commitment to advancing scientific discourse. Dr. Dauda holds esteemed positions, which includes an editorial board membership for Frontiers in Genome Editing, PLOS 1, Taylor and Francis and Elsevier journals. He is also recognized for his scholarly eminence. Dr. Dauda has received accolades and grants from prestigious organizations such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, UNESCO, Regeneron, American Phytopathological Society, APS, American Society of Microbiology, ASM, Department of Biotechnology, DBT, India, World Academy of Science, TWAS, Italy, and the MJ Thyromalaka Merit Awards for Young Scientists. And due to this significant nature of Dr. Wadzani's research findings and his noteworthy achievements, it is unsurprising that he has been offered postdoctoral positions in esteemed academic research laboratories at Louisiana State University, USA, Hebrew University of Jerusalem in Israel, Masak University in Czech Republic, and Indian Institute of Technology in Mandi, India. His extensive research interest encompasses diverse domains, which includes disease detection, mycotoxicology, agricultural microbiology, genome editing, and bioinformatics. Dr. Wadzani's intellectual versatility is further highlighted by his membership in renowned societies, such as the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, that's the ASBMB, International Society for Computational Biology, that's the ISCB, International Society for Molecular Plant Microbe Interactions, Society for Applied Microbiology, SFAM, American Phytopathological Society, APS, the American Society for Microbiology, ASM, the Nigerian Young Academy, NYA, and the Royal Society of Biology, RSB, in the UK. He holds the esteemed title of Fellow of the Society for Plant Research, FSPR. Dr. Dauda is the Director of Research and Development at the Academic and Grant Writing Enclave, H, and his collaborative endeavors extends globally and fosters intellectual exchange with research groups in leading universities. And so in essence, he stands as an exemplar of scholarly excellence, illuminating the path of scientific inquiry and leaving an indelible mark on the annals of academia. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I welcome Dr. Wadzani Dauda Panam to take the stage. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I guess you're all hearing me. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Depend on the environment and the weather you are. It's great to have us all here today, and we're all pleased to have you at the 7th webinar series of the Academic and Grant Writing Enclave. Now, as all of us are assembled here today, basically because we've seen this flyer and you picked interest in maybe just the title or maybe an aspect in what to learn. And I guess that all of us here will have great value for our time that we are all here. Now, to move on quickly, I just want to take a quick recap of one of the recent webinar we held just recently. Just a quick flashback at some things we've done. Now, what is research in essence? What exactly is research? Now, we need to understand that in an era characterized by, the relentless technological advancement, the societal evolution and global interconnections, the landscape of academia, of academic research now, all right, of academic research stands at the crucible of innovation. Discovery is the watchword. Now, like I was saying earlier, just a quick recap. Now, like I was saying, research is basically the word RE, prefix means RE, evaluation. It means something that have been searched already. You are looking at it the second time. And so in this era, discovery, innovation, transformation is the watchword globally. The pursuit of knowledge through, the intrinsically driven, it's globally, whether you are in Europe, whether you're in America, or whatever part of the continent you are, is driven by curiosity. Knowledge has indeed increased. The intellect is rapidly evolving. And so the genesis of groundbreaking research to meet up with these demands. The global population is rapidly increasing, technology is rapidly increasing, and everywhere around. The genesis of groundbreaking research ideas will definitely have to transcend beyond the boundaries of traditional disciplines, where you are just narrow-minded. I'm a biologist, I'm there. I'm a sociologist, I'm just there. No, it has transcended that boundaries. It's demanding a synthesis of multidisciplinary insight, right? Creative exploration and deep-seated commitment to addressing complex challenges, because as humanities and populations increase, the challenges are also getting more complicated. And so it's a journey that transcends the realms of theoretical abstraction, all right? Practical application is what is in the view now, globally. So the essay, as we embark on this journey, all right. So what I'm trying to say in essence is, when we look at this research, there are various categories of research. A quick recap. Either could be primary, secondary, or quantitative or qualitative. What exactly is primary research, by the way? A primary research is, as the name implies, it involves the collection of original data directly from the source. So this method is often time-consuming. That is one of the characteristics of research in that aspect. Primary research are usually time-consuming, and sometimes, of course, obviously resource-intensive. But it provides first-hand and specific information tailored to a specific research. A classical example is, when someone is conducting a survey on or trying to gather information directly from respondents, it's a common form of primary research. Now, or interviews, they are primary research, where the researcher is targeting the primary point of collection of data directly. Secondary research, as the name implies. So now, yes. I was trying to say, in essence, I was trying to give a classical differences between various types of research: primary research, secondary research, qualitative research now, right? Qualitative research. What exactly is qualitative research? What exactly is quantitative research? Now, qualitative research, of course, basically deals with understanding the underlying reasons, right? When you are trying to understand the reasons, the motivations, and the behavior of individuals. But quantitative research here emphasizes numerical data. Quantitative research basically has to do with dealing with empirical data. What of applied and basic research? Applied research is practically oriented, while basic research seeks to expand a theoretical knowledge without necessarily an immediate action. And so basic researchers try to underscore what are the fundamentals. How does the process happen? How does it occur? What happens when this and that is happening, especially in biological sciences? What of deductive and inductive reasoning in research? In deductive reasoning, it involves driving specific conclusions from a general principles that occurs in nature across human behaviors, while inductive reasoning involves drawing general conclusions from specific objectives. So in conclusion, what do we exactly mean as the multifaceted versions of the types of research now. It's a process. Research is a process. It's a multifaceted process. And understanding the various types and methodologies is critical for researchers, for professors, for young scientists to conduct effective studies. Because primary and secondary research, as I told us earlier, or quantitative or qualitative, applied or basic research, as well as deductive or inductive reasoning, they offer a various tools whereby a researcher is able to pinpoint what exactly is my point of reasoning. And so in conceptualizing an idea, it actually has to begin with identifying your interests. What are your interests? Identifying your existing knowledge. You sometimes have to seek guidance from professors, researchers who have been long in the field. And that is why good studies and good research is very important. You have to be focused on a specific topic addressing a particular issue. Sometimes availability of resources is also very important in conceptualizing your research, the relevance of the research. And most often than not, you try to do a pilot study to get a quick feedback, a feel of how much your research is going to look like. And there are various research gaps now. In our last class, we looked at over 25 different types of research gaps, identifying whether it is evidence gap, knowledge gap, practical gap, theoretical gap, population gap. We've expanded them in our previous webinars to over 25. And interestingly, we have up to 30 currently, various types of research gap. I'll talk to us on just one of them, methodological gap. When you are trying to study literature, there are gaps in method. These are gaps in method. For instance, in medical research, the gaps in method clearly typifies method in research gaps whereby the methodology possibly has a flaw, or they could be for improvement. Those of you that study, you will realize that in your studies, in your materials and method, there is always a particular paper that everybody in that discipline cites. That's a method. You could look at that particular method and discover that there is a need for improvement of that method. That is a methodological gap. And what are the features of it? Where does it occur? In the research design, in the type of questionnaire, the sample size, the area of study, the population of study, the tools of administration, sometimes the instrumentation, sample size, and sampling techniques. These are gateways you find methodological research gaps. And so identifying these gaps are what will make you to be able to come up with how to address it. And how do you address it? Do you go by invention or innovation? They are two different things. People most of the time used to confuse the two. Invention stands on its own. Innovation is there. What's the difference between the two? When you are inventing, you are trying to create something entirely new. But at the point of innovation, it's not just something new, but that its implementation and creation is adding a value. All right? And that's why many inventions are not necessarily innovations. For instance, I gave an example here on the slide. The light bulb, the first light bulb did not create any value because it didn't last long. So as a researcher, when you are trying to come up with innovation, you are not just trying to strike the eureka. Yes, I found how to do this. This method could use in that. Okay, this is the best way to address this issue. No, you try to look at innovation. And so what are the trademarks of an innovative mindset? When you're trying to come up with innovation, there are certain things that should come, certain questions that you have to answer. What is the issue? What is the issue? What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the issue are you trying to address? That issue you identified. Then, what works? What are the possibilities that this thing could be addressed? What are the options? What are my options? And among the options I have, what will wow? What wows? As a researcher, the sense of urgency, that is an innovative mindset. An innovative researcher, the sense of urgency has to be there. You have to do. In our previous seminar, we talked to us on demand-driven innovations, not just supply-driven innovation, where you just do the research because you are an expert in that field. You give the farmers or the medical practitioners or you just give it because I'm an expert in that field. this is my technology, you have to receive it. No, the sense of urgency, it's a demand driven. It's what the people require, and that's what you're trying to solve. And that's why the sense of competence, creativity, intuition, time consciousness. So a researcher is a problem solver, all right? And having this mindset is what triggers amazing innovations. The great innovations we have today come up on those ground, on those kind of mindset. That's what those scientists, those researchers have at the back of their mind. Not just writing for publication, great as it looks like, but the beautiful thing is being able to make impact and impactful research. In conducting this research, they could be disciplinary, specific, multidisciplinary research, interdisciplinary, or transdisciplinary research. What are the differences between the two? Now, because research is dynamic, or of course, and multifaceted, processes that evolve through various approaches to address complex issues and advance knowledge, there are various avenues, there are various approaches. It's not a one-man Rambo, as the soldiers will always say. It's not a one-man Rambo, you go and you just conquer everywhere. No, science has evolved now. It's all dealing with multidisciplinary, mixture of different things. What is multidisciplinary research? Here, it involves individuals, all right, from various disciplines, working independently. Don't forget, independently on a common problem. And so in this way, each of them is contributing insight from their specific discipline. All right. The collaboration occurs side by side and it's parallel. For instance, now in environmental conservation, right, researchers from biology, from economics, from sociology may independently study different aspects, such as, maybe the behavior of the environment. So these findings are then combined together to develop a comprehensive study or strategy on how to address that environmental challenge. Or maybe those in medicine, medical practitioners in health sciences, in management. It could consist of, professionals from medicine, from psychology, and sometimes even people in business. They may address a health system issue by providing specific, individualistic perspective from their perspective. However, don't forget, in multidisciplinary research, the perspective of all of it, the integration here is very limited. They are not integrated. That's why you see in this cycle, all of them are divided. What of interdisciplinary? In interdisciplinary, you could see some level of interaction, right? Here, it involves collaboration between experts from different disciplines who are actively integrated, and they're actively collaborating to solve a common problem. Here, the emphasis here is at synthesis of insight. Synthesis of insight from the psychologist, from the architect, from the engineer. The two insights come together. And that's why when you have a grant call or you have to write a proposal, you try to come up with different disciplines. And this is what forms, in fact, this is even the common Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that is always open every year. It fosters that interdisciplinary research. So you don't look at it from one prism only. What of transdisciplinary? Transdisciplinary here, of course, as the name implies, it goes beyond interdisciplinary boundaries. It breaks the entire traditional boundaries of each of those individualistic research and try to find a unified framework to address the issue, right? A classical case is when during the COVID period, right, we saw how every discipline is coming up with research to try to form how to address the issue. So don't forget, like I said earlier, in multidisciplinary, different disciplines, but everybody stays within its boundaries. In interdisciplinary, there's a synthesis of ideas. In transdisciplinary, there's an integration of ideas. I guess that is clear. Now, next, how do you conceptualize a research idea? How do you conceptualize a research idea? In conceptualizing a research idea, ladies and gentlemen, they are what we call various approaches that could be used. One is the SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis, which is very common in business. If you want to apply it in research, you will be able to come up with very amazing ideas. In SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, analyzing each of these will help you to come up with what exactly your audience need. The strength in conducting a SWOT analysis, right? Here, when you look at it, if looking at it from a holistic perspective now, the organization or your research lab, you are leveraging on strength. You are looking at the strength. What are the strengths here? What are the weaknesses here? And each of those areas is where you try to look to identify the strengths and weaknesses and threats. Individuals or team of researchers can gain valuable insight into their competitive landscape and potential challenges, and sometimes strategic advantages, right? In academic research now, when you want to conduct a SWOT analysis, you want to apply for a grant, you have to assess your institutional strength, right? Your research expertise, your funding capabilities, your collaborative partnership. You have to look at that. And of course, it concurrently also allows for the identification of weaknesses. And those weaknesses could be sometimes resource weaknesses, methodological weaknesses. You know, 2 days ago, I was discussing with a professor from the USA. We're trying to form, we wrote a grant last year, and we reached the almost the last phase of the grant, and we were not selected for that grant call last year. And so the grant in the review, they asked us to do certain things and address an issue and encouraged us to apply this year. So 2 days, last week, the grant call just opened. The professor from you chatted me up. Okay, let's look at this and try to address. But what exactly was the reason? The reason was because the grant call expected that there was a minimum level of resources that is supposed to be available in the institution, my home institution, and we don't have those things. So they were recommending trying to look for a collaborator that have that to bring the collaborator on board and encourage us to apply. So that is it. You have to look at weaknesses, right? That is in looking at SWOT analysis. In the Scamper technique now, what is Scamper? Here, when you're trying to come up, to think using the Scamper technique now, as the name implies, what should I substitute? What should I combine? What should I adapt? What should I modify? What should I put to another use? What should I eliminate? What should I reverse? In the Scamper technique now. In the Scamper technique, for instance, now, if you look at the smartphone industry, when Apple substituted physical keyboard with touch screens, we saw how they revolutionized the entire use of cell phones, right? Previously, you have to use keyboard, but now it's just touch screen and app, Android, everybody is using it now. What should I combine? What should I combine? When you look at Netflix now, although I can't remember watching any Netflix, TV screen anyway, but in Netflix, the model they use, they combine traditional TV viewing with on-demand content. So people could watch TV on Netflix directly or could have on-demand content. That is combination. So you could look at it and think with it within your discipline. What should I adapt? Adaptation. What should I modify? When you see certain companies, even restaurants like McDonald's restaurants now, when they want to establish themselves in certain African countries, in Europe, their menus are different because they have to adapt to that environment. All right, you don't form a research idea in a rural environment and you are trying to employ use of 5G, well, network 2G is not even so strong here, and the network system is poor. It will not work. What other techniques should you use in conceptualizing research? The thinking hat method. In the thinking hat method, there are 6 strategies, stick thought, and each of those thought patterns you have to put in your mind while thinking. The white hat guy. The white hat, when you wear the white hat, here you are going to look at facts. All right? Facts. What are the facts available? What are the facts available using empirical evidence? What statistical evidence? What are the facts available in coming up with this idea? This data. What are the data? Each of those, so you have to think along that line. Not just that, the green hat, where you wear on the creativity. Based on the available fact, what are the creative way I need to find to solve this issue, right? Not just that, the process, the benefits, the feelings, the cautions, the black hat guy now, that's a caution guy. What are the things, what are the possible risks involved in coming up with these ideas? So whether the white hat, you have to look at it from the fact perspective, or the red hat, where the emotions, every researcher has emotion, you must be passionate about it, or the black hat, the critic, every researcher must be critical about your methodology, about your innovations, or the yellow hat, you must be optimistic, or the creativity, you must be creative, or the blue hat, you must have process control. Each of those hats need to be worn if you are really going to come up with a groundbreaking research. In coming up with a groundbreaking research, you need to remember that every research process has key steps: problem identification, finding of the purpose, coming up with a research plan, collection of your data, analyzing of your data, and reporting of your data. So in doing that, there is a paradigm. Paradigm means the worldview in research. In the worldview of research, the positivist worldview, or the interpretive worldview, or the critical worldview, or the positivist worldview, each of those worldviews have its meaning. In the first instance now, the positivist worldview here, it is based on the belief that there is one reality, all right, or there is one truth that simply requires discovery or to be known. That's realism. It's realistic, all right? It is framed by observing causes and effect. And so therefore, the outcome, it is outcome oriented. In this line of, in this paradigm, it's outcome oriented, all right? The singular objective here is reality. So researchers that can compare their claims and ascertain the truth. So this means that the researcher is actually limited to data. It's limited to data. It's limited to data collection, interpretation from an objective perspective. Very, very objective. In the second aspect now, in the second paradigm, here it looks at different people in a society, how their experiences and understanding of the reality in the different ways they view it. In the second paradigm, it looks at the people now, the customers, the recipients. And the next, the critical research paradigm here is concerned with the power of relation and how they affect people's life. Here in this paradigm, it's a form of research that is critical of the status quo, and it seeks to challenge an existing structure or way of doing things. In the critical research now, the critical researchers, they use a lot of methods. Methods include the qualitative and quantitative research we talked about earlier to investigate the level and the power relations in what they are trying to investigate on. So in doing all of that, there are various methodologies that are being applied in approaching that. It could be qualitative, quantitative, or a mixture of the two, which is popularly known as the mixed method and mixed method approach now. In quantitative research here, it strictly deals with data, right? Data collection, analyzing, interpretation. It deals specifically with numerical information. That is quantitative research. So quantitative research emphasizes objectivity, right? It's the statistical inference, and it's trying to use that statistical inference to aim at quantifying variables, testing hypotheses, and trying to establish the cause and effect relationship. That is a classical case with qualitative research. And these are some of the features of a classical quantitative research now. It's quantitative, so it deals basically with data. A classical example, for instance, now, a pharmaceutical company that's trying to conduct a randomized trial, right? Or what is commonly known as the RCT, to evaluate the effectiveness of their new drug in reducing blood pressure among, hypertensive patients. So the study here, if they want to conduct that kind of research, they are going to measure quantitative variables, all right? Several variables are going to be measured in this kind of research, all right? variables such as, the cytosolic, the adverse effect of that drug. So those statistical analysis will compare the outcomes, right, between the control group receiving a placebo treatment of that drug and the intervention group. Are you following me? So the placebo group and the intervention group receiving the new drug will now provide empirical evidence to support or refute the drug efficiency. That is a classical, in quantitative research. Another example is maybe an educational researcher trying to conduct a survey to examine the relationship between student habits, right? Student habit, which of course will now be the independent variable now, and their academic performance. So in looking at student study habits and their academic performance, in this kind of study, the study will use a Likert scale questionnaire. We use a questionnaire to collect quantitative data on student study hours. It will collect data on their study hours, not just study hours. It could also take techniques of their studies. It could take sometimes even motivations of their studies and their grade. So when it combines all of these features, it will be able to do statistical analysis such as correlation. Common statistical analysis that we use there will be correlation or regression analysis to identify the patterns, to identify the trends, to identify the associations between those study habits and their outcome and their grade. So that is classical quantitative research. What of qualitative research? Qualitative research here, as the name implies, it focuses on exploring and understanding and trying to interpret a complex phenomenon through a non-numerical data, such as words, such as images, such as observations, such as narratives. All right? So in qualitative research, the watchword here is it emphasizes context, it emphasizes meaning, it is subjective, right? And in-depth analysis. And it's the approach here, the growing dependency through intellectual decency and confirmation. These are classical features of qualitative research. One-to-one interview, focus group, and different levels of approaches like I wrote here on the slide. All right. What are the classical features, the differences between them? You could see here, as I wrote here, but one very clear distinction between the two is that for quantitative research is statistically oriented, while qualitative research, it deals basically with content analysis or thematic analysis as indicated here. What about the combination of the two? What we call the mixed method analysis, the mixed method research now. So for the mixed method research here, it integrates the element of quantitative and qualitative approaches within a single study, all right? Sometimes your study could combine both qualitative and quantitative on a research project. So here, in mixed method, it aims to capitalize on the strength of both paradigms. So it provides a more comprehensive and robust understanding of research questions, phenomena, or context. All right. So here it gives a comprehensive picture. It gives a synergetic approach. It gives a very flexible and adaptive, solution on or presentation of how to address that issue. The question is this: what kind of research method is best? It depends on your objective. It depends on what you are trying to address. Now, the issue is this: in applying, when you come up with a research idea, the thing to do is to conduct the research. But in conducting the research, the general thing to do, every researcher's dream is to get grant, is to win grant, is to win awards. So in winning those grants, never forget all of your innovations, all of your methodologies, all of the research cycle, and all of the ability to come up with the Scamper technique, the SWOT analysis, the thinking hard, and all of it to address that issue. There are certain things you must never forget: the relationship between innovation and grant funding. If you miss it at this point, it doesn't matter how innovative your research is. It doesn't matter how your profile is. Your grants the relationship will not work. What involves, as you see these beautiful kids smiling at you, what will make your proposal to be smiled at with your reviewers and evaluators and eventually the grant funding? Number one, catalytic relationship. What do I mean exactly by catalytic relationship? Here, you need to understand that innovation often catalyzes, grant funding, right? So novel ideas or technologies or methodologies that promise transformative impacts, all right, or address pressing societal challenges can capture the attention of grant bodies. And so it will now compel them to invest in your research or project. So you must never forget that a pressing societal challenges is what you should seek to address. And so the availability of grant funding can stimulate and facilitate innovative endeavors. It will now provide you with the funding. So you have the idea, you are passionate about it. The people, the clients, the farmers or the patients are passionate about receiving the solution to that. You have the idea, the grant funding have the money. All of you come together and try to address the issue. So there's a catalytic relationship. Everybody is being triggered by one move. The researcher is triggered by his idea. The client, the patient are triggered by their need. The grant funding are triggered by the ability to make societal impact. Don't forget, you need to understand as a researcher that grant funding, they operate with a business model. Although they give the money, but the idea is they want to see how much their money is going to make impact in the society. All right. And that impact they make in the society is what translates into, their relevance and, and all of that. So not just that, the relationship has to have strategic alignment. Strategic alignment. So successful grant funding is frequently contingent upon demonstrating a clear alignment between your innovative research objective and the strategic priorities of the funding agencies or institution. I've shared this in one of our webinars that you must understand that you must study the guideline of your grant application the way you study your Quran or the way you study your Bible or the way you study any of your religious books. You must study in between line to understand what exactly are they looking for. And that which they are looking for, you try to follow the guideline strictly. All right? So researchers, as a researcher, you must articulate how your innovative idea aligns with the broader goals or societal needs or the thematic priorities outlined by the grantors. So innovation serves as a conduit for securing funding by ensuring that research endeavors resonate with strategic imperatives and funding criteria are established generally in their grant call. So you must take note of that. The next one is the feedback loop. What do I mean by feedback loop? Here, it implies that innovations and grant funding often forms a feedback loop wherein the successful innovations can enhance the credibility and track record of the researchers, that is on one, and increasing their likelihood of securing future funding. And that is why if you win a grant, it's easier for you to win subsequent ones. And that's why sometimes in the application, they ask you to provide 5 recent published papers in that line, some of the grants you have won. All right. So grant funding provides researchers with the resources and opportunities to advance their innovative ideas. You and I. So the next one is risk mitigation. What do I mean by risk mitigation? So here, grant funding sometimes serves as a mechanism for mitigating the inherent risks associated with innovative research endeavors. They are generally risk with research endeavors. So the grant funding try to help in those risks. So those funding agencies may be more inclined to support high risk, high rewarding projects that have the potential for a transformative impact. But don't forget, require substantial resources, expertise, and sometimes time. So for it to be fully considered. So that's why some grants will say we need high risk research proposal, meaning that, and those high risk research proposals are bold ideas that researchers are trying to use to form groundbreaking ideas. NET is collaborative network between the two, between the researcher and the funding agencies. So those collaborative networks amplify the synergetic relationship between the innovation and the grant funding. So it fosters a dynamic ecosystem, right? Conducive to the groundbreaking discoveries that will come from those innovative ideas. The next one is the capacity building. So here, the grant funding serves as a catalyst for enhancing the institutional capacity, the competitiveness, and the innovative ecosystem. So it tries to facilitate the generation and dissemination and application of knowledge, right? Next is accountability and impact. It goes both ways, both for the grant funding agencies and the researcher. The next question is this: what if this relationship fails to connect? What if it turns sour? As you see, this baby has just tasted maybe a lime. The mother or the auntie have given this baby a lime, and the lime is just tasting very sour. This is what will happen. What makes it turn sour? When it lacks novelty, when there's insufficient proof of concept, when there's failure to address the risk or the challenges, when it looks like you are just trying to do a mental exercise, when it looks very unrealistic, when your claims are too mind-blowing, and it makes the researchers, the evaluators of those grants to understand you really don't understand what you are trying to apply for. Or sometimes it lacks collaborative or partnership, solo research, like I described earlier. Or sometimes it lacks inadequate explanation of the innovation. It could limit it. Sometimes it has limited scalability. And don't forget this word. As important as novelty is, scalability of research and impact is very, very important. Your research must look and must have potential of being scalable, right? Scalable means it has ability to have continuity. Now, the Bloom's taxonomy, every biologist knows the Bloom taxonomy. In research and innovation, we have research and innovations taxonomy. What does it mean? Now, here, in the research taxonomy, the three things are clear. Just like you have kingdom, phylum, class. The three things are there. Number one, looking. Number two, understanding. And number three, making. In looking, the researcher at this point should be able to observe human experiences, right? Through research, through identifying of gaps. And like the diagram here indicates, now ethnographic research, where you're trying to identify the ethnograph, studying the human behavior in its natural setting to undergo what exactly are their needs. Don't forget, I'm repeating it again, a demand-driven research. What are the needs? What are the things exactly needed? The participatory research, it's here. You must be looking at what exactly is needed. Not just what do I have to offer, what is needed. And that thing is needed is what, just like a dog or a deer panting after water, when it gets water, it takes the water so dearly. Your research must be like that. It must be that like a tasty water, that when it drops, everybody is looking for it. When the solution comes, everybody is looking for it. You remember during the COVID period, I use COVID a lot because that's what every one of us is familiar with very recently. The moment the vaccine came, everybody was rushing to get the vaccine and all of that. That's why there was controversy. Some school of thought were, no, the vaccines are poisonous. Some other people, no, the vaccines are good. But at the long run, the summary is that everybody was looking for that thing. So your research must be like that. Your research innovation you must think in that line. Next, you must analyze challenges and opportunities. That is the understanding, like I said earlier. Next one is you must envision the future possibilities of your research. You must think of how it's going to be of great impact, that in years to come, like all of us that are seated here, none of us could ever imagine that in the 80s or in the 90s, there will be a time where everybody will be together. Some people that joined this webinar, we've had people that registered from various parts of the world, literally the entire continent of the globe, from people from China, from Indonesia. They are all here at the same point. That is innovation. Somebody thought in that line. I guess that after these lectures, after this webinar, you will come up with great, amazing ideas. And your idea should be relevant. Your idea should be credible. Your idea should be legitimate. Your idea should be positioned for usage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for granting us your precious time to stay through. It's great to have you all here. This is my name. You could reach out to me through LinkedIn for collaborations, for interactions, for discussions.
So on behalf of the Academic and Grant Writing Enclave, I'd like to appreciate everyone who took out time to participate and attend the webinar this afternoon. Of no doubt, it has been a very insightful session, and we also thank our facilitator. But just before we close for today, we have just a few announcements for us. This is a free webinar, and just like this one, we've had other free webinars on our YouTube page, one of which is the effective strategies for successful and on-time degree project completion. And this webinar was facilitated by Dr. Jack Mohan Singh. So you can find it, we'll drop the links on our WhatsApp platform. So please, in case you've not joined the WhatsApp platform, please do so. We'll drop the links for you to watch these webinars. And we have another on cracking the code, that's securing scholarships for your postgraduate studies. And this was by Engineer Meshak Tabat. We have another free webinar on academic content by Dr. Asharani Patel. Another free webinar on the nitty-gritties of academic and grant writing by the same facilitator of this afternoon, Dr. Wadzani Dauda.
Somebody made a request. They said they will look into it.
Our undergraduate behind. Please mute your mic. Thank you. So we did not leave our undergraduates behind, as we have a free webinar on our YouTube, uploaded on our YouTube platform for undergraduates, and it's titled The Path to a First Class Degree. So we've done all of these free webinars, and I'll advise that you mark your calendars for our upcoming updates, because we have even more interesting webinars that are upcoming, one of which is top 50 scholarship opportunities available for undergraduates in Nigerian universities. Stay tuned, because this webinar seeks to enlighten the undergraduates on exclusive scholarship opportunity that is tailored for them, especially in Nigeria. I would advise that we do not miss this chance to fuel academic aspirations. So if you know undergraduates or undergraduates in your platforms, you can let them know of this. Once the official flyer is out, we will send it out on the group. And we also have another important free webinar for the persons in medical profession, and it is titled Structured Approach to Writing Impactful Research Papers in Medicine and Basic Medical Sciences. And this would be facilitated by Dr. Ezekiel Musa. He's an experienced physician and consultant endocrinologist, and he's passionate about patient care and research and medical education. So all our medics, all the persons in the medical profession should stay tuned for this webinar, as it will be very insightful. And the fun fact is that it's free. You do not have to pay any amount for these webinars. So now moving on, we also have paid webinars. Now we conducted this webinar on 25 types of research gaps, how to conceptualize innovative ideas some weeks back, and it was quite insightful, and it garnered immense interest and demand. And this is why we have uploaded it on Seller just for a token of 7,000 Naira. So if you need this, if you need the idea on this webinar, you can go to you can visit seller.com, and also the link will be dropped for us on the platform. So you can visit and get this course, and a certificate will be issued after the course. Yes, a certificate will be issued to every participant after the course. And we also have another paid webinar, which is on high impact research paper writing. And we have trained over 90 participants in the last 2 months. And the course The course actually transforms your academic journey and enhances your research writing skills. So if you're interested, I would advise that you hop on this opportunity as the registration for cohort 3 has begun. Cohort 2 begins today, and we have over 50 participants, in fact, up to 60 participants in the second cohort. The third cohort, registration for the third cohort has begun, and I'll advise that you secure your seat because this course is going to transform your academic journey. And of course, there is a certificate. This is a sample of what the certificate looks like. And our certificates are ISO and CAC recognized. And so you do not have any issues of authenticity because our certificates are authentic. So if you would, please hop on the opportunity, visit www.academicenclave.org, and also the link will be dropped on the platform. If you are interested, please hop on it and register for the course. And we also have another paid course on Research Innovation Academy. This is another branch of the Academic and Grants Enclave, RIA. So this is the Research Innovation Academy, and there is a webinar, a 6-week webinar. In fact, the earlier announced webinar is also for 6 weeks, and this webinar is also for 6 weeks. So if this piques your interest, visit our website, www.academicenclave.org, and register. As you can see, we have the list of our facilitators, Dr. Obichi Obiajunwa, we have Professor Thomas Ijim, and then we also have Dr. Wadzani Dauda. These are all seasoned facilitators, and they are here just for you. So like I mentioned earlier, the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, and ISO certifies our certificates. So when we are issuing certificates to you, you have no worries.